Welcome to another episode of the Amazon Brand Story Podcast. Sean, I'm super excited for our guest today because he was just telling us about a product that I've never heard of and I have no idea what it's for. Just kidding a little bit there, but not really. So, Sean, who do we have today?
Well, Seth, we have a very, very special guest. And I don't say that lightly because literally before we started this broadcast, Derek said, "You'll just have to watch the podcast to find out." So I know that Derek has brought in, has created some amazing content for you today. So without further ado, let me introduce you to Derek himself, the founder and creator of Strength Genesis. And Derek, welcome to Amazon Seller Brand Stories with Seth and Sean. Tell us who you are and what where you came from before you got into this Amazon business with your product and your brand Strength Genesis.
Yeah. Hey, Sean, Seth, thanks for having me on. In fact, it's going to be a lot of fun. With Strength Genesis, I got into it. My background is I am an exercise scientist. So my PhD is in exercise science and my master's degree is in nutrition. So I'm a nutritionist as well. And in the field for about 30 years of helping people lose weight, drop body fat, and get in better shape, nutrition is vitally important. And when it comes to the journey of looking at different nutrition, of course, you're going to go down the line of supplementation. And I have looked at a lot of different products over the last 30 years. But ultimately, I wanted to create something that I thought was special. And by special, what I mean is something that wasn't readily available, highest quality, and also at the same time, highest quality packaging to give the best user experience, be good for the environment, be good for a person's body, and ultimately help them lose weight, drop body fat, and get in the best shape of their life.
How do you like that, Seth?
Oh, I love it. So, Derek, you sounds like you really live your company. So, how did you go from being an exercise scientist to now you run this amazing company and you sell products all around the world?
It was an overnight story that took about 28 years. And in the process of doing so, as running a health and fitness business. So, once again, as a nutritionist and exercise scientist, I do employ a business of helping people get in better shape. And my audience is 45 to 65-year-olds who are looking for many things. Yes, they want to aesthetically look better. They want to drop body fat. They want to look better. But also, too, guys, they want to feel better. They want to be healthier. They want to live longer. They want less medication in their lives. All of those things to increase the quality of their life. And when it came to looking at supplementation, it made a big difference. A lot of people take different types of supplements. For example, fish oil. They take protein powders. They do many things that will help or enhance the results and ultimately help them get in better shape. In the process of working with these clients, of course, I've had to do the groundwork and look into products to see what I would recommend. It became difficult trying to find different product lines that check different boxes. So instead of doing that over time, I got frustrated. Like everything else, you look for an invention after you have a problem. And from there, I was able to start developing different products that not just that help people get in better shape, but it's something that they enjoyed doing and wanted. So there started to be a demand. And then I knew I was onto something decent when my private clientele kept asking me for more or additional sales. Since they were looking for more products, I knew that I had something that could work. And then, of course, from there became how do we scale it? How do we bring it out to the rest of the world? How do we sell it on Amazon? And how do we increase sales?
Okay. All right. Fair enough. So after 28 years, basically you figured out how to help your clients get into what you call the best shape of their lives, right? So when we say good shape, I mean that means different things for different people, right? So as an exercise scientist, what do you think is like what is the goal of the majority of the clients that you work with? And better also, second part of this question, Derek, is where do most of your clients get it wrong before they engage with you and your brand and your line of products?
Yeah, Sean, exactly. I couldn't agree more. There is a continuum of what would define as getting in good shape. I always liken it to being like in school. If you have an F grade, you want to pass the class. So getting a D plus or a C minus looks pretty darn good. But if you're already a C student, of course, you're going to strive for a B. You're going to strive for an A. You're going to strive for an A plus. it's identical when it comes to somebody's body. So meeting people where they're at is, of course, very important. If somebody's morbidly obese, if somebody's on 4, 5, 6 different medications for different things, we're looking to reduce those medications, get them in better shape, and maybe getting them a passing grade, maybe more like your C in school. If somebody's more advanced, of course, we want much more for them than that. Lower body fat, better mobility, less pain. Maybe it's shoulders, maybe it's hips, maybe it's knees, maybe it's back, maybe it's neck, maybe it's a combination of all of those things. Maybe they're on blood pressure, maybe they're on blood thinners, maybe they have blood sugar or diabetes-based issues. All of those play a role, all of those tell a story, and we believe we have a product line that addresses a lot of that. Now, I am going to be the first one that's going to tell you that there is no such thing as a magic bullet. There's not a magic pill.
Oh,
I would love, Sean, I would love, Seth, to sit back and say, if you take my products, I will solve all of those problems and then some, and you will look amazing. I would love to be able to
this
say
is
it.
starting to sound like an infomercial.
Not like that at all. Exactly. But in reality, there's more to it. Of course, it can't erase a poor diet. It can't erase poor lifestyle or poor choices and no exercise. So there's a place for it. But what we wanted to do is, regardless of a person's level, regardless of a person's medical past or history, we wanted to create a product line that addressed them in the highest quality possible. And the reason why I've stressed that a few different times, it's kind of like buying a steak. You could buy a $3 steak, or you could buy a $58 grass-fed organic steak. It's the same type of thing. They're both steaks. So the same thing too with a lot of these product lines, like protein powder, like fish oil, which has a huge and long-lasting story. And also too, we are chatting off air about macadamia nut oil, which is really the new olive oil. It has all of the beneficial properties of olive oil and then some, but also a rich buttery taste, and it will soon be your new favorite oil.
So Derek, let's talk about that a little bit. So I'm looking at your store right now, and this product has incredible reviews. I've never personally heard of it, but you've got me interested. You call it liquid gold. Why is macadamia nut oil so good? Why is it better than olive oil or any other cooking oil? And why is it so healthy?
It's an interesting story, and I got into this about 10 years ago, and it went like this. The author and 4-hour work week guru, Tim Ferriss,
Love Tim
wrote
Ferriss.
I love Tim Ferriss too. In fact, I'm a huge fan. He wrote a book called 4-Hour Body,
I remember.
which was helping people get in better shape. And he talked about this new olive oil, which was macadamia nut oil. And Seth, at the time, even given the fact that I'm a nutritionist and do this for a living, I had heard of it either. So it was this new olive oil. Why is it this new olive oil? Well, olive oil has been beneficial for 2,000 years or more because of its high omega-3 properties. Omega-3 fatty acids help your body repair. So when damage happens internally or externally, the omega-3s go to work and they help you at the cellular level, helping you repair. Now, macadamia nut oil has 2 to 3 times the amount of those omega-3 fatty acids than olive oil does. So olive oil is good, and we know that. This is even better and higher, and nobody had heard of it. So, of course, I wanted to order a bottle. And when it did come in, when I finally found the Australian kind, because it can come from South Africa, which doesn't taste anywhere near as good, and it doesn't have some of the same properties, I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed cooking with it. I cooked eggs with it. I cooked vegetables with it. I cooked some meat with it. My wife did as well, and she liked it. She liked it too, and she's tough. She's a tough customer. So I knew since she liked it that 99% of the world would like it. So I started ordering more bottles and giving it to some of my best clients who at first never heard of it, appreciated it, and then it started coming in. They started saying, "Can you get me another bottle? Where do I buy it? How do I get it?" So I started ramping up buying more from different distributors, and I had done this for a couple of years or so until one day the distributor that I was using was no longer in business. So I looked feverishly for another distributor for Australian macadamia nut oil, and I struggled to find one. So I finally picked up the phone and called the refinery in Queensland, Australia, and said I would like some more oil. And they said, sure, no problem. And I said, well, how many bottles do I have to order? And they kind of answered me, looking gazed, and said, well, we don't sell you bottles. we're going to sell you the oil. You have to do the bottling yourself, which completely blew my mind. And I said, but then how do I order? And they said, well, our minimum order is a metric ton.
Wow. How many bottles of oil is that, just for reference?
Well, we have 500 milliliter bottles, so that's 2,000 bottles.
Oh, that doesn't sound unreasonable.
Not unreasonable for a larger bottle. So that's their minimum order. I said, so you ship me this big crate of oil, then what? They said, well, first of all, we're not going to ship it to you until you have your importing license. We're not going to ship it to you until you can clear customs and have a brokerage account. We're not going to clear it to you until you have a place to put it or some type of storage. And then when you get it, you're of course going to have to get it bottled yourself. So you're going to have to get your bottles. You're going to have to get your FDA compliant labels. You're going to have to make sure that it's all to your specs and specifications. And then from there, you can do what you want with it. So it was this great list of about 71 most important things that we had to cross off to finally get to where we needed to go. But in the process of doing so, and over the last 10 years, I think I've sold somewhere in the neighborhood of 600,000, 700,000 bottles. So
wow, how many metric ton is that?
That's a lot of metric ton,
Golly.
It's a lot.
Wow, that's amazing. So I know that it didn't start this way. So why nutrition? What was it that happened in your personal life or in your business career that made you decide to take this path? And while you're talking about that, if you can, pepper in a success story or something that a client win or, a case study.
Yeah, for me, it was quite interesting. In fact, I never intended to do this for a living. It's completely accidental. I was going undergrad I was doing pre-med to eventually go to dental school to become an orthodontist. Okay. And I got to tell you guys, even still to this day, I still love teeth. So
are you telling the truth?
I'm telling the truth. Yeah. And the reason why, of course, is because growing up, I was anything other than healthy or athletic. Growing up in an Italian-American household, there was no shortage of carbs or sugars or cookies. I was 244 pounds in high school. So, I wasn't the quarterback. I wasn't the hockey player. I wasn't any of those things. I was just a fat kid that wanted to go to dental school. But for me, I finally got to having to take exercise science classes as a prerequisite to doing pre-med undergrad. And I fell in love with it. And then essentially I found out how I could change my body. And then from there, it intrigued me to learn more and then to start helping others. And then getting a master's degree in nutrition helped that as well. So that's kind of where I came from. But looking back at this, guys, to answer that question 30 years ago, if I was a dentist or an orthodontist right now, would I consider health to be such a priority? And the answer is I really don't know. I ask myself that question quite often. But over the last 30 years, yes, I have worked with the private clientele, as I mentioned, mostly 45 to 65-year-olds, mostly people that are on some type of medicine. People don't contact me first. They buy the Fitbits, they buy the Pelotons, they join gymnasiums, they do different starvation diets, they do all those things. Once they don't have success with it, once they fail and they're looking for an alternative, I usually get a phone call saying that you're my final option. And I said, okay, well, I guess I'm an option at some point. I hate to be everybody's final option, but nonetheless, that's kind of how I got into this in the clientele that I've helped and served over the last 28 years or so. When it came to nutrition, it was just a natural extension, especially with supplementation, a natural extension of everything else that we were doing. And I saw, once again, it started with me nutritionally looking at the macadamia nut oil and falling in love with this product. What I didn't mention so far before when we were talking about the comparison between olive oil, it's more beneficial, but also too, it's easier to work with. And what I mean by that is olive oil has a smoke point of 350 degrees Fahrenheit. If you exceed 350 degrees, the oil flashes, it smokes, and it becomes black oil, which can be very carcinogenic, and it loses the potency of the omega-3 fatty acids in the first place. That's why olive oil is not a great cooking oil, especially at higher temperatures. It'll break down and you don't want to do it. So macadamia
doctor, I'm the best at turning olive oil into black smoke.
Into black smoke.
Because I'm in a hurry. I'm the kind of guy that stands in front of the microwave and says, hurry up, so.
Yeah, no, I'm believe me, I think a lot of guys are like that. But you don't want to consume black oil. It is carcinogenic, and it won't help you in any way, shape, or form. Your body can tolerate some of it, but it can't tolerate much of it. The temperature for macadamia nut oil, get this, 515 degrees Fahrenheit.
Wow.
Wow, that's
Big
ridiculous.
difference.
515. I've taken it over to 620 degrees, even on a video camera, without it smoking or breaking. I don't know how long it would have held it. We held it for about 5 minutes. It didn't break at 620.
So let me
So
ask you then, since you know all this stuff about this gold in a bottle, this liquid gold, at what point does macadamia nut oil become a solid again? You know, after I consume it, is it clogging me up? Is it becoming a solid? You know, I always think about all these oils that are melting at above 98 degrees, 98.6, but at what point do they become a solid again and become unhealthy?
Well, the answer is once it goes through your digestive tract and bile has been added to it from your gallbladder, then essentially it's going to start turning into a solid again.
Okay, is that good or is that not good for us?
It is necessary, of course. Otherwise, well, you're not going to be able to eliminate very well. So it's going to have to become a solid, or you're going to be eliminating in liquid form, which generally isn't pleasant for a lot of folks.
Now, Seth, I know that Dr. Derek has prepared something amazing and special for the viewers of our podcast. And those
Yeah.
of you listening to this on the live stream, you want to go into that?
I do. So, Derek, after hearing you talk about macadamia nut oil, I love olive oil, but you're saying, this oil has, it's easier to work with and it has that buttery taste that I love. So I'm going to have to try it as well. So I can't wait to use your special offer as well. So, Derek, I know you've prepared something special for us. You're sitting here for sale on Amazon. I'm looking at your listing. You have almost 300 people that say your product's amazing. I'm looking at your reviews right now. So, Derek, walk us through. I know you have a little bit of a discount that you're offering the audience today.
I'd like everybody to try this. And the reason why is I honestly believe this will be your new favorite oil. You could use it for grilling. You could use it for cooking. You could even use it for baking. In fact, I have a daughter who is 10 years old and she is a baker, and she uses this in lieu of just using vegetable oil, which you really don't want to take much of that either because it can clog your vessel walls and your arteries. So trying this out, I would love to be able to give you a discount, and I want to do that. 15 off SG sale is the coupon. So when you go to checkout, type in 15, the number, off, OFF, SG, which is Strength Genesis, SALE, SALE. Use that coupon code, get a discount, enjoy it. I want you to try it. Please leave us reviews after you do so, because I want to hear about your experience with it and how you utilized it and what you used it for, because that's important to me.
I love it. So if you go to Amazon and you type in Strength Genesis macadamia, or probably just oil, I'm sure it'll pop right up. The packaging is gorgeous, Derek. I was reading some of your reviews earlier, and they said the oil's amazing, the packaging is amazing, it looks great sitting on my counter. You guys have to see this. So take 15% off. That's really generous, Derek. We really appreciate you coming on the show and making that amazing offer. Sean's gonna pull it up live here.
So tell us what we're looking at here, Derek.
You're looking at the store. So you'll see the first product is the Australian macadamia nut oil. That is our flagship product, our liquid gold. Yes, right there. With that, once again, good for high heat cooking. It is a vegan oil as well. We have an additional listing that is under vegan too. So you'll see it just like that laid out. Use it for your high heat cooking. Regarding the packaging, it's interesting. The whole product line, Seth, is all done in sustainable form. So all of my oils are in glass. All of my packaging for protein powders and everything else is in metal. I don't want more plastic in the environment. So when you buy protein powder, you buy a typical GNC protein powder, it's this big plastic tub, right? Not good for the environment, not good for your body either. And a lot of people don't know that, because remember, plastic comes from a petroleum byproduct. You're going to increase estrogen levels, BPA, BPS. It's not good for your health, and it could also hurt your fat loss. So instead of doing all of that, we put it in aluminum containers. The scoop itself isn't this big plastic scoop. It's a stainless steel scoop that is reusable, recyclable, better for you, better for the planet.
Wow, I really, really like it. And this is why we actually host this podcast, and we want to bring, brand builders and business owners like yourself into the light, basically, because when you're scrolling through Amazon, you don't know all of this stuff. There's not an expert sitting there beside you saying, "Hey, you're making a mistake here. You're buying the wrong protein powder. It's in the wrong packaging. You're actually getting the opposite of the result that you want." So we really appreciate when somebody really cares about a portion of the human experience and then builds a company around it to help everyone else. So we really, really appreciate you, Derek.
Really
Oh,
good job, Derek,
my
on the
pleasure.
product. Any parting words of advice for nutrition wise, or for those who are maybe on the fence or maybe think this sounds a little hokey? What can you tell us from your experience or a case study that will push us over the edge to go try this before we wrap up?
I think like anything else in life, quality does matter. You don't want cheap shoes or cheap tires. You want
We
to make
don't
sure
want a
that you have
$3 steak.
you don't want a $3 steak. It'd be pretty tough, right? So you want to make sure that you have quality. I think like anything else, when it comes to what you put in your body, nutrition makes all the difference in the world. I mentioned shoes, I mentioned tires because sometimes we make better decisions about that than what we consume. And it shouldn't be the case, especially if your health is important to you, if your lifestyle is important to you. You can't easily replace parts in your body. So you want to make sure that you keep them as good as possible. And I think that's really the key. Also, too, depending upon where you are, some people might say, hey, look, I am not on this fitness journey. I like the taste of food. I'm a foodie. I want to try these things out, but I'm not there. Try out the macadamia nut oil. You're going to love it from taste alone. The last thing is it's a rich, buttery taste. If you put olive oil on a spoon and drink it, it's healthy for you, but you're not going to be blown away by it. When you put macadamia nut oil on a spoon, or better yet, cook your vegetables with it, cook your eggs with it, it adds almost like that buttery taste like mom used to make eggs back in 1978, and it tastes very similar to that. It's like Christmas morning 1978, Sean, and you totally know what I'm talking about.
I was in diapers in 1978. I'm just saying.
Yeah, well,
But we had eggnog and Crisco and all kinds of fat lard. And my grandmother lived to be 80. So how much longer would she been around had she had macadamia nut oil? You know what I mean?
107.
107.
She would have easily made it to 107.
Dr. Derek, I hate to tell you that we're out of time, but what an amazing offer. 15% off on Derek's store on Amazon. Just go to Amazon and search for Strength Genesis and check out the flagship product. I feel like Derek has worked for one of these high-end vodka companies in the past because the packaging is sexy. It's almost as sexy as the story itself. So go check it out and save 15%. Derek, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story on our Amazon Seller Brand Stories.
Guys, I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on, and it's a lot of fun.